42 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that, we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Icon. We're here on 95 South Podcast once again. I want to thank, first and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity to be able to come on here and to have these great interviews with great people and talk about topics that matter in our community and our lives. Next, I got to always introduce my man, my right-hand man, your baby mama's favorite host, you know what I'm saying, in the building. You know what I'm saying? The man, a jack of all trades, my man, King Jacob the Great. What's going on, fam?
Man, what's good? What's good, man? Glad to be in the land of the living, brother. Another day to get it right. We all wake up with a chance and a choice, bro, and that's a blessing in itself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, you know how I go, man. Go ahead and introduce this young man so we can get this interview popping and do what we do.
All right, man. We have today another star-studded episode. With a man who really needs no introduction, but I'm gonna grace y'all with his presence and introduce him anyway. So we have South Carolina native, songwriter, music influencer, just humanitarian, a man that loves people, and we just glad to have him on the 95 South Podcast Network so he can share his backstory, so we can understand who he is and how he became this person.
Thank you for that introduction. What's going on? I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Can't complain at all. God is good, bro. So, just want to get the story.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. So basically, Malik, until you come back on, like he has some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Go ahead and just tell us who Malik is.
Sure.
First and foremost, like where you come from and your journey up to this point.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you both for having me tonight on the 95 South Podcast. Anytime anybody gives you a space on their platform, that always means a lot. So thank you for just having me. But as far as me, of course, my name is Malik. I'm a singer. I'm an artist based out of Columbia, South Carolina, born and raised in Florence, South Carolina. And so I've kind of been on this journey a little bit. I waited a little while to sort of take it seriously, if you would. And I've been sort of slowly releasing some singles and just kind of trying some things out. I've always been a singer, sort of as per usual, like most folks, born and raised and singing on the choir since I was, yay high, that was all I knew, was really just music and singing and playing instruments and saxophone. And that was always my passion, always my peace, always a thing that I did that brought me a lot of joy. And so that's who I am as an artist. But I think another big part of who I am is I'm actually by day a therapist too. So so I do, always busy, as you can imagine. But I'm grateful that I have two things that I absolutely love and that feed my soul, but also give something back to the world. So that's who I am.
Okay, so you say therapist. What type of therapist are you?
So I'm a licensed professional mental health counselor. So I actually work with people in the mental health realm. As I always say, therapy by day for the world, music by night for me. That's my personal sort of healing space.
Okay, so that's real good, because we actually gonna get into a little bit on later in the interview about that, because like I was telling you before we got on air, that we're real big on mental health.
Right.
That's discussing it, trying to understand it, especially in this time that we're in now, when it's probably at an all-time high when it comes, especially with our youth.
Oh yeah.
It's gotten really, really. It's basically what you call it, an epidemic when it comes to mental health. I used to be a children's counselor myself years ago, so I almost kind of seen this coming.
Right.
Whatever. Jacob, you back on with us?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll let you jump back in.
So, from the music standpoint of view, man, when did you know that you had a gift and it's something that you want to share with the world? At what age did you kind of, transition? Like, I really have something to say,
Yeah,
and I could give them, some realness, and my voice is going to attract people and allow people to understand that this is a gift from God, and they
yeah.
need to hear this.
So I was telling Icon earlier, was sort of always singing in church, just in choir. But as a kid, I was extremely shy. So what I would do is kind of hide in the choir, sing a little low, sing to myself. And I'll never forget, I was about 12, 11 or 12, and my mom's talked to the choir director. She's like, "You don't have Malik singing no solos?" She's like, "No, I don't think he really wants to." She's like, "Put him on there." And so she basically told him, like, don't let him back, don't let him hide. And so I'll never forget, it was like a Christmas play, and I had to sing this song. And so that was the first time I recognized that. I remember watching other people. I was shocked at other people's reaction. I was probably about 12, 11 or 12. And I remember just being like really shocked, like, wow, they like that. And I don't think I really got to the point where I was ready to share it with the world until about college. And I remember, again, choir, auditioning for solos, because we actually had to audition for the parts before you could get the lead parts in certain songs. And I started recognizing, like, oh, I get them, And then we had like on open mics on campus, and there would be like talent shows, you can get up there, and I would like place and win money. And so it almost took me seeing other people's reaction to what I did to take it seriously. Like I as much as I just loved it from my heart, it was almost like I had to see other people react to it consistently over a length of time and go, oh, this is something God gave me. I need to use this. So it took me a long time to really take it seriously. And then I think the last part is um probably after school, graduating, and then finally saying, I want to put out some music. I want to continue writing. I want to record, and open mics lead to opportunities, which lead to connecting with people, and then that's sort of how I got started. So it was normally other people seeing something in me and going, oh, okay, so this is real. Y'all vibing with this. So it took me a little while to catch on, to be honest.
Okay, so let's rewind it back a little bit. Being in the church, raised in the church, dealing with these tough choir directors who, teach the A note, the B note, the C note, and teach you what the riff and what the run and
Hmm.
teach you, how the octaves are supposed to be when the bridge break down.
Right.
And so a lot of choir directors are really old school and they can be really tough. And
Yeah.
they'll get in your face because they want to pull something out you. And
Yeah.
so upon you working with the choir in church and dealing with a choir director, what type of relationship did you build with that choir director when you know that you couldn't tell her or him a no when it
Right.
comes to you singing?
I think one of the things, ours wasn't. I don't remember. I remember them being disciplinarian. So I remember, if you cut up, you got it there, but you got it again at home. So I remember, always being on my p's and q's on that note. But I think what it was is they actually sort of, again, saw something that I sometimes couldn't even see. I would love to sing all the time at home to the radio. I remember being all into my mom's cassettes, Earth, Wind and Fire, Jeffrey Osborne. I mean, a kid. In fact, I remember learning to sort of put, you remember Teddy Ruxpin. I remember learning that he didn't have to have a story, that I could put, Earth, Wind and Fire off in there, and I would jam along with it. You know what I mean? And so,
Right.
but a lot of the people who really poured into me as far as singing goes, I think one of the things that they recognize is that I was doubtful in the beginning, and so they would always push me a little further. Like, all right, try that again. Let's do that again. Let's do this. No, no, you're gonna lead it. And so it was really just that guidance of always being reminded about not just who I am, but whose I was. Um, and them not willing to let me kind of get lazy with any gift, if that makes any sense.
Right, right, right. And so, from middle school and high school, and you and you start going to college. So, what school did you attend as far as your collegiate studies?
College, for undergrad, I went to Coastal Carolina University, so Ghost Giants down in Conway, South Carolina.
Okay.
And that choir and our director, we lost him just last year. He passed, and so but he was another big pivotal person. Him and a couple of the other really amazing vocalists and singers that were on that choir. We really banded together. It was really like a ministry kind of a thing. But at the same time, there was a whole lot of honoring of skill. Like you couldn't just do something because it felt good. It had to be musical, and so there was always this sort of a very regimented sort of guidance from that I received from that experience as well. You can't come unprepared. You can't come not knowing your music. You can't come not knowing your words. You can't come not rehearsed. And so I think those core pieces kind of make you who you are as a musician and as an artist. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing in a lot of the, I hate to say it, but in kind of a lot of the newer acts, they don't necessarily get their 10,000 hours that way. They had a hit record, they went viral, they had a dope beat, they got a cool look, and so they're thrusted into this big spotlight, this big stage, but without the time of saying I've done this thing for this many years. And so I think that contributes to a little bit of what we're seeing. And not to knock anything, but I think it's why it's different. But I think that's also for me why it was all music was always something that had to be taken seriously. It was something that you can love it all day long, but it had to be taken seriously.
Right, right. And so with that proper guidance and that proper toolage, it made you open up more, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you know, um, as a vocalist. And
Yes.
so with you being a vocalist and attending the Coastal Carolina, can you remember the first time, you know, um, that you became a soloist?
Yeah,
And
actually I do. I remember auditioning for the parts, and I remember, kind of really being quiet and kind of laying back and kind of, but I remember the day that I actually auditioned, and I remember being done with the song, and I remember like the room was quiet, like, and I to the point that I thought, did I do something wrong, And they were like, no, that was good, and I was like, oh, okay. Again, very doubtful in my gifting. I think it took years for me to finally grow into feeling confident about what I did and what I brought to that realm. But I remember that moment again of noticing the response of others, and when they did the deliberation, and the listing was made on who got what part, and seeing like, oh, I got a part, I got a lead, of really having that sense of pride.
okay, and upon your family members and your peers understanding that you had this gift, to sing and you could wow people, the things they hear from you, when you're singing, the riffs, the octaves, the runs, and you know, um, how did you captivate them and what was their response to you?
I think so. I think there were lots of folks who, again, because it was sort of a slow progression. In high school, I actually was also in marching band too, so I was always in music in some form. And so a lot of people knew, oh yeah, of course he sings at the church or he does this, but I think when they recognize like, oh, he's taking it another step forward, like he's starting to do things on his own. He's starting to uh, I remember starting to have like small little gigs, with events with family, or if it was a wedding or something like that. And I think over time, people start to see you more doing these things, and they started to sort of see you operate in your abilities, and they realize, oh, not only is he good, but he's taking it seriously. And so I think getting that encouragement, getting that support, and starting to get comfortable really just performing by myself. So even start to kind of ease away from performing with the big choir behind you. That's a beautiful feeling. But then to be able to sort of take the stage and say, no, this song is just me, or this event is just, maybe me and a couple other, solo acts. So getting used to that, I think it allowed me to get used to it slowly, but it also allowed other people to realize, oh, this man is taking this process seriously. Like he means this. He's committed to seeing this through and building on it from here. So I think it was just over time, people getting used to seeing that I not only did I love it, but I was serious about it. And then obviously, the more that you do something, and the more you put your heart into it, and the more you put that time and that commitment of it, actually like hearing and seeing your growth. And I think that was kind of sort of that time when a lot of family and friends were like, oh, okay, cool. And really started to be supportive of whatever I was a part of.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that. I'll come back to you.
Okay, so before we get further to the interview, once again, I always gotta shout out our affiliates, Global Village Network, our 9, or actually 10 radio stations across the world, our 146 countries, our other affiliate, She Real Radio, Tube Entertainment, down in Mississippi, um, and D Boss over in Canada. So I wanted to shout out everybody or whatever before we move forward. Also, if you want to book us on an interview or for an interview or contact us for us hosting an event or come out doing media for an event, hit us up on 95 South Podcast at gmail.com. So you can definitely hit us. And also subscribe to our YouTube page, 910 Sports and Entertainment Network. It's spelled exactly how I'm saying it. 910 Sports and Entertainment Network. Please subscribe so we can continue to build our numbers and be able to provide what we provided. So anyway, getting back to Malik. So Malik, as far as your singing career and your style of music, you have the soulful R&B style. What's your writing style? So what do you pull from? How do you get into that? Your vision or your tunnel vision of what you want to do with your music.
Yeah. So it can really depend. I know that there have been times when I've been sitting. So shout out to two people that are really pivotal in all of this. Sheen One, the MC, he's a homie family at this point. He's overseas right now, so shout out to Sheen One, and he's authoring and speaking and doing all kind of cool stuff. And shout out to Levin, really good, like basically another brother, producer, singer himself, really just all around talent. Me and those two cats, we would get together in a room and just hours would go by, and we might listen to beats and write, and I might sing a little something, but like, oh, that's a hook. And the song may not necessarily be my song, but we would just get together and create. And so a lot of times there are times in which I have a certain thing in my head, and I'll just start with that. I'll start with the line. I'll start with the hook. I'll start with like sometimes just a sound or a run. But I would say if I had a specific way to describe my writing style, I would say it is a storyteller's perspective. There are times when there's something I want to paint the picture of, and so I can kind of build around that theme or that storyline. Then there's also times when I just write to a feeling. There was a record that's on that we released called Run that Sheen One released on one of his records, and it was just I just heard the melody, and I heard the beat, and I just started singing it, and that became the hook of the song. So it really just depends on sort of like what I'm working on, who I'm working with, what they're trying to do, what they have to say. But a lot of times it's just a feeling or a story that kind of builds up, and you lay apart and you build around it, and we work together and we create some pretty cool stuff.
And not getting too specific, but any of these songs, being it is soulful R&B, is any songs pulling from real life situations?
Absolutely. No, I think the record Run that I was just talking about, we were just talking about sort of the state of the world and just how unstable it felt and how broken people felt. And so that was just a kind of a general experience. My record Walk Away, that was just a real life experience of when you recognize sort of it was very much of a I wish I never met her type song, the story of recognizing, I think anybody who has had to, realize when something's not good for them or not best for them. So a lot of times it is real life stories. And sometimes it's a real life story of someone that's like, hey, this thing happened. And we've actually sat down and wrote a story that wasn't any of our own, but was an amazing story. And we felt like it captured a moment in art. And so sometimes it can be all of either of those three: a personal experience, an experience of someone that we were connected to, or sometimes just the state of the world or feeling.
Yeah, because I feel like you got like a cheat code, because the reason why I say that was a mental therapist.
Yeah.
So you hear a lot of different stories, a lot of different situations.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure your music, when you're doing these songs, can pull from somebody else's situation that you've had to actually give them advice on.
Sure.
yeah, this is how you should handle this situation
Right.
versus this situation.
Right.
Am I kind of hitting it
No,
out?
I think I would say this very carefully. I would never sort of put someone else's story completely in the song and protect their privacy and all those sorts of things. But one of the things that I'm really big on is like honoring the general experiences of people. And I love to just like people watch. I love to listen to stories. I love to hear people's stories. Obviously, I love to tell stories. That's partially why I'm an artist. And so because I have a love for people and a love for understanding them and a love for their stories, it means that sometimes I see the way people's stories overlap. I see the way, numerous people are saying the same thing at a certain chapter or point in their lives. I see what grief looks like. I see what a broken heart looks like. I see, these are things I've lived through. I've lost a dad. I've definitely had a broken heart, and so being able to pull from those experiences and those deep pains that there's no way we can live without walking through, or at least learning how to walk through them. And so my goal was always sort of when it comes to music, it used to sort of be, if I'm honest, just to enjoy it. It was like, I do a lot of helping for other people. I just want to feel good and do something that I love that's good for me. But if we really look a little closer, that anytime you tell a story where someone sees a part of themselves, that's healing for them too. So as much as it is cathartic for me to get on the stage and let things out, it's also I think it normalizes experiences, and it just allows us all to realize we're all the same. We're all human.
Yeah. So we'll come back to the mental health part in a little bit. So
Okay.
going back to something that you and Jacob was talking about, we were talking about artists who basically nowadays they're in the microwave society.
Yeah.
They get a song, they find a way to make it, they put it on YouTube, whatever social media, and it blows up for them, and they don't have to go through basically the I guess you want to say the boot camp. They don't have to go through the struggles. They don't have to go through all the stuff that the artists in the past had to go through. Not to say you want them to have to go through every little thing, because we
Sure.
did platform for them to have some kind of head start. But me and Jacob talk about this all the time, that the one thing the industry as a whole is missing is artist development.
Hmm.
That you don't have that anymore. That's why you see a lot of time artists on interviews don't know how to answer a simple question. Or like me and Jacob we did an Alabama Music Awards about 2 months ago, and it was a couple of artists on it. You could tell that they didn't have any kind of training, because every question, it was like they didn't even, like one guy, he forgot to name his own mixtape. You know what I mean? It was like, what? And like it was another little young lady. She was young, so we didn't hold it against her. But every question we asked her, she couldn't tell you when her next single was coming out. She couldn't tell you what her really path in the music industry was. And it was like, who is shaping these artists and talking to them, and even like when you watch like the Migos years ago, I remember watching them on the Breakfast Club, and they were so shy and timid, and then eventually they grew out of it. But
Yeah.
it's like type of things that are Berry Gordy and people back in the day were the talk artists, and Puffy were the talk artists, and got them with a PR and got them with certain people early on in their career.
Hmm.
So over your time, how do you feel about this whole thing of the artist development? And I know you talked briefly a little bit about how the artist got the cheat code, but on the other side of being developed the correct way to
Right.
be able to make great music and quality music, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So it almost makes me feel like a dinosaur, like I'm old school, in the sense of, and I don't feel necessarily old, but in terms of what I admire and what I grew up like listening to, when I take artists like let's take a Michael, let's take uh, a Stevie Wonder, a Luther Vandross, and watching how when you hear their story, what you saw of them, there was a whole part of their story and history that prepared them to stand on that stage in front of you, that prepared them to captivate audiences and create amazing music. And so I guess I would I would like to see labels take sort of a little bit more interest in not treating their artists like popcorn and actually treating them like a slow cooker, putting them and really getting them right, and really like guiding them appropriately and investing in them in the long term. I guess now it's really interesting because I think labels are pulling away just in general. They don't want to invest a lot in anyone, which is why you have so many indie artists like myself who have to be self-made in everything. Everything you see is they've had to do it themselves. And so I guess if I had a request, I would love to see labels, if they're going to still be taking a vested interest in creating new music, really guiding their artists, teaching them, how to handle interviews, teaching them, giving them quality time to get used to being on stage in front of 10,000 people. Granted, there's some opportunities I'm still working to achieve. So I feel like I'm speaking on something that I'm also still working to do. But I honestly feel prepared to handle those things if they were to present to me. And so that's the label side. But I think on the flip side is being willing to say, if I love this thing and if it means this much to me, I'm gonna be willing to get some really uh, thoughtful and honest and mindful people who are gonna guide me and walk me through that. So taking your craft and yourself and your artistry seriously enough to invest in those things, even if someone else isn't telling you to do it, but recognizing that I need these things to be polished. And so it's as much of a personal kind of goal and need and responsibility as much as it is just the industry has sort of lost, honestly, its interest in seeing people through for the long term. And I think that's why we see more singles than albums. I think that's why, you get a really big hit from really good acts, and then they're not really necessarily handled in a way that allows them to grow. I mean, there are legends that I think we have now that had they come out now, we wouldn't get the chance to see them be legendary because they wouldn't even be handled in the same way by a label. And that's tough when you realize like this is the same gift. This is the same presence, power, but because they don't have this particular look, or just because I don't really want to do the slow build of an R&B soul act. I'd rather do a quick hip hop or pop artist, because it's just a different market. It's a different way of connecting with people. So I would love to see more people be willing to give acts like myself a chance, because I feel like R&B isn't dead at all. I think there's lots of really cool talent out there, but I feel like labels don't quite know what to do with it because radio doesn't really love it as much.
Well, to get back, well, before I get back to Jacob, I will say help may be on the way. And what I mean by that is because me and Jacob, we are connected with executives behind the scenes, and they're actually kind of going back towards the old way a little bit, meaning
That's
they
cool.
just go on YouTube and Spotify, look to see who has the most numbers. They
Hmm.
actually to start looking at artists for talent wise and go talk to those artists and see if they can develop those artists and get their numbers, help them get their numbers up.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm connected to some artists like that right now that I'm part of, and there, and that's what A&R told them. Like basically, if you do X, Y, and Z in 6 months, I want to have a deal on the table for y'all because I see the talent, and they're in that R&B type of world themselves. So the help is on the way when it comes to that.
Cool.
Of course, people actually doing the work, and because the thing about it is, and before I send it back to Jacob, back in the day, we knew who our A&Rs were. We knew their name. We knew their presence. We knew their history.
Hmm.
Now, mostly A&Rs, we don't have a clue who they are because they don't have to do the work. So they don't have the same respect as the ones from back in the day. And so, like your Kevin Lyles and people like that, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
your Julies, people like that, those type of people. Even Lara Cohen, he started in that world before he got to where he was at. Puffy, of course, we know he started before he got to where he's at. And those people put in the work and the time and develop artists. So when they finally got to the forefront, people knew who they were. So
Right.
I just want to say that. Go ahead, Jacob.
Now we're speaking on artist development, which is something that I love. So I'm gonna give you three names that was developed, that was put on the shelf for 3.5 years,
Hmm.
and now they're global icons. Alicia Keys,
Hmm.
Chris Brown, Trey Songz. All three of them, Clive Davis put all three of them on the shelf for 3 years. And he brought them out when he felt it was necessary, because while they was on the shelf, they were still on tour, opening up for acts. You know what I mean? But they was
Right.
younger then. So,
Right.
it couldn't be at nighttime. It had to kind of be festivals during the daytime and stuff like that.
Right.
So, what arts development? does for artists. It prepares them. So if we look at country music designed it so their artists can't fail. I have never heard of a country music artist saying that they're broke, that they don't have anything. You know what I
Facts.
mean? And
Yeah.
and so they designed it so their artists can be paid forever. And with artist development, now speaking on the A&Rs like Icon did, when I first got into the music business, it was street team promotion, club promotions.
Right.
So the A&Rs that I used to see, they used to go to all these small towns from city to city finding talent. And now you have A&R that, like Icon said, just look on YouTube and Spotify. That's not doing work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, I remember A&Rs, growing up when my pops told me, yeah, A&R be inside a church. For real, for real. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
Because they had so many different divisions. And you just imagine, what if Russell Simmons, when he had Def Jam, what if he had a gospel division, a jazz and blues division, a country division? So I just think music is such a universal language, and I think that a lot of black and brown labels don't explore the universal you know thing in music, man, because music has no creed, color, or face.
Right.
Music, is a language. It's a love language. It's a
Hmm.
healing language. It's a therapeutic language. So, and I think looking for artists that understands that music is their therapy, those are some of the most dope artists that you ever could find. And
Yeah.
so, and I think, like I kind of stated, it needs to get back to that. So,
Yeah.
that's my spiel on artist relevance. So, what I want to ask you, um, the hook on "Walk Away."
Hmm.
Listen, man. Listen, as DJ Khaled said. Listen, man. Real life, man. It's about love, emotions. It's about the mental capacity of loving somebody, and it's about spiritually. You don't do it for me, so I definitely gotta let you go. And so,
Yeah.
at the time of writing that song, man, where were you at in what type of mental space, emotional space, and spiritual space were you in?
Yeah. So I think I was in a place where I wasn't too pleased with some situations, and I think I literally wrote the song in about 30 minutes. I think it was about 30 minutes. And I think I might have changed a couple small things, but I literally just like I played the track and I just started writing and started singing, and I just did like a rough recording. I think on the computer, and I mean the song literally got written. That was probably one of my quickest writes, though, honestly. So I can't say that it's always looked that way. Things normally come to me when I hear it and feel it, though. You know what I mean? But as far as where I was at, I think I was in a place of recognizing that it's really important that there is no love for anyone else if you're not loving you. And
Mhm.
anytime you start to give parts of yourself away to the point that you don't have anything left for you, you just lost. And I think that's kind of what I was picking up on and coming to sort of a surrendering of, if you would, and realizing that's not living. That's not, you know what I mean? That's not the way you really need to be connecting with or rocking with anything or anyone. And I just needed to get it out, and that's kind of what walk away was. It was truly cathartic. It was truly just sort of getting this recognition that, oh, like, you don't live like that. That's not, you can't, that's not sustainable.
Right. So the reason why I asked you about this song, it's a madness to my theory. So,
Hmm.
and you really may be surprised. I can see a remix with this song, and I thought of three people on the remix.
Okay.
I I thought of Vivian Green.
Nice.
I thought of Heather Hadley, and
Yeah.
and I also thought of Nick Jonas.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So just cause it's got a kind of like a R&B vibe, but I also can see a pop singer on it too. You
For
know,
sure.
something like Nick Jones, Josh Stone,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
even even a real soulful singer like Latha Hathaway or Natasha Bedford. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
so for you, um, who would you like to remix this song with, and why?
Oh wow, I didn't. You got me on the spot on that one. It's really hard to get me on the spot. It's really that's tough. Oh man.
I think
Um,
we asked the cookie cutter questions.
no, that's good. That's good, King Jacob. That's good. So no one you named was all of those were amazing talents. And it's funny you picked up on the Nick Jonas thing because when me and the homie Sheem and Levin, shout out to them. I hope they're watching. But when we were kind of really pushing, they were hearing what I was thinking and they were like, yo, that's good. We gotta get this done. I remember Levin, like, I really don't want you to be so focused on. I know you love, old school. I know you grew up listening to 70s, 80s. I know you love it, but I also want to make sure that people hear the modernness in your voice and in your style, and that you can go as old school and rich in that tone and that space, but you also could legit do a little pop. And I was like, yeah. They're like, no, no. He was like, just trust me with it. And so we went back and forth on production for a while until we found the pocket. Um, and I promise I'm getting there. And so what we landed, I had to explain it to him. I said, well, some of the most beautifully written, recorded, and produced records that I know that like touch the core of like pain. Even you could be having the best day and you hear the record and you'd be like, oh man. I said, that's Babyface, that's Tony Braxton. I said, those are two of my recording idols in terms of the way that they paint pictures with sounds and tones and words and tell stories. And the magic they made together, clearly. But Babyface with lots of other people, but especially when he's with Tony. I was like, I literally needed to be that. Like, because they never sound old, they never sound out of touch. They always sound modern and fresh every time they release something new. But there's a core of soul, and there's a core of honestly of pain. So I think if I got to pick anybody, and they were like, you can do what you want. We got the budget. It would probably be Tony Braxton.
Okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, interesting. So now you're a writer, obviously. Because your penmanship showcased it. On Walkaway. You know what I mean? So,
Appreciate it.
and with that penmanship, if you had the opportunity, or if you had some time to write a TV series, you know, a TV series with 5 to 7 seasons,
Okay.
what type of TV series would you want to write, and how would you want to implement it, and how would you grab the world's attention with your writing?
Oh wow. Wow, first off, obviously for most folks, when we think of particularly songwriters, we're very connected to writing music that tells stories instead of outright just telling stories. Um, I probably would want to do a series um, that showed, particularly when you said 5 to 7 seasons, and I guess that would give time to like show the progress and the growth of take a show sort of like what Blackish was, which was epic in terms of the numbers that it did. But I would want it to kind of not be as comedy and as jovial and light. And I wouldn't be full on like Tyler Perry pain and singing and that kind of thing. But it would be right in the pocket between telling stories that showed real people having real life growth, pain, joy, evolution. One of the things that I talk to people so often about is what a thing that I call radical joy. We know a lot about being happy, but I say joy is not something that necessarily is contingent upon what's happening within the world around you. It's a decision of you committing to the way that you're showing up to yourself, to your life, to the things that matter most, to the people that matter most. And it's you leaning in and finding the beautiful moments in your life and in your day and in your story, even if other things aren't quite perfect. And so I would really want to show, honestly, probably a beautiful Black family type story with one person being lead, maybe the younger person, so that we could follow them through like middle school, high school, college, their own journey of being an adult, navigating maybe like a new city. And so I would want to use that span of time in those seasons to create motifs and stories and themes that were honest, that were real, that were messy, because people aren't perfect, and I don't think we need to expect ourselves to be perfect, but to show growth and to show healing and to show forgiveness, particularly within the Black family dynamic. That, and I would also want to be very intentional about how I showed Black love. So I
Right.
never even thought about any good questions, by the way. But
You
when
know, you know
that's
what?
that's
Because
what I would want to do.
show kind of identifies what you're saying is the shy. I don't know if you're
Okay.
shy before, but the shy taps into all of what you're talking about, every type of emotion
Yeah.
from. And the thing about the shy is we hear so much about the gun violence and the killing and the murder and the drugs, but the shy taps into real everyday lives and relationships, and from the kids up to the grown-ups to
Okay.
all type of different dynamics. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you ever watched the shy, but once you watch one or two seasons, you're gonna be captivated by all the
Okay.
dynamics comes from Black love and like you
Yeah.
said, happiness and we have the little bit of everything's gonna have a little bit of comedy to it, a little fun
Yeah.
to it, but it's more focused on these people's lives and how they have to get through infidelity and have to get through loss
Hmm.
and have to get through this and get through that, losing a job and all the stuff that comes with us
Yeah.
have to get
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So Malik, now the reason I asked you this, um, and it's a strategy behind it. So by me listening to your song "Walk Away" about 4 or 5 times a day, I asked you this because I would envision or entitle this TV series based on "Walk Away,"
Hmm.
and I would call it "Why Love Didn't Call My Name."
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Honestly, that would be a good play too.
That sounds like a play
That
now.
sounds like a play. That sounds like a play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking it could be a play, a TV series, and a movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it'll be so epic, and a lot of men go through life, and they deal with this woman and that woman, and love never calls some people name until they reach
Hmm.
45, 50 years old.
Hmm.
And so,
Hmm.
why did love take so long to call his name? Or for a
Mm.
female, they didn't grow up with a father, so they looking for it in the wrong places, and it's like why love didn't call their name, and they feel like why has love bypassed me?
Mm.
Am
Yeah.
am I not created in the righteous eyes of God? Like so, it's a
Right.
lot of twists and turns
Oh
that it
yeah.
could be.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's actually an amazing idea. I never thought of the song as in terms of a show or a film or a play, but yeah, I think it because I think that's a question that people have, and that's why I kind of wanted to, that's how Walk Away got birthed, just telling the story of like, listen, like if you out here living and you out here trying to do, trying to love, you're gonna hit some bumps. That's just gonna be the way it's gonna be. But there's a way that you can do it that allows you to continue on with a level of respect for yourself. And I always tell people uh, you don't have to close the book. You don't have to throw the book away to close it and put it on the shelf. You can actually. I know a lot of times we're gonna slam the door. We're gonna make a big scene, but there's a way to end things in a way that allows you to really be respectful of yourself and the time, because you was there for a minute, so you can't say you hated it all.
Right,
But really
right.
honored that that was where I was, and that's what it was, and that's what happened, and that's okay. You know.
hmm And then sometimes once you close that book, that's something that you got to go back and reevaluate mentally and emotionally that you can grab out that book that
Yeah.
you don't see in everyday life.
Yes.
So, closing a chapter is fine, but there's always a part of that book, that can help you throughout your daily life so you don't make the same mistake again. And
Yeah.
and so with that being said, man, leads me to the next question. How have music been therapeutic for you in your daily travels throughout life?
Oh man, the question would be, Jacob, how hasn't it been? I think I mean, I literally start my day with music. If it's not a quiet meditation or prayer, the next thing that probably happens is um, singing. Like literally, just it allows me to move emotions, thoughts, and feelings in a way that all the words in the dictionary and all the things I can come up with and say. And I love to talk and chop it up with folks, but it touches on something in a way that nothing else to me in this world can. And I used to tell people I don't know how I would have done life, even as a kid, without music. When things got weird, in the family or in the household, I would find my little Walkman and I would throw a tape in it, and I would just vibe out. Music was always my safe place, my safety, whether it was gospel or worship, whether it was just jazz, whether it was R&B, whether it was oldies. And so music itself, I feel like it's a constant communication with me and God always. Even if it's secular music, I feel like it's my way of reminding myself of things and grounding myself in a way that I don't feel like anything of this world else could or has for me. So music is absolutely the way that I probably um, find peace, find solace, celebrate moments, and just really tap in with me.
Okay, cool, cool. So now this is a hypothetical speaking question, and ladies, don't kill me, don't get mad at me. And this is a question that I want you to chime in on, Malik, and then I want you to chime in on. So, in today's age versus how we seen our parents and grandparents, do women truly love themselves with all purpose and power, with every measure of unconditional love? And if they don't, how can a male fully give themselves to that woman or women that
Mm.
they choose of their choice? How can they find it, find the evolving space to give them selves freely on a mental level, on the emotional level, on
Mhm.
the spiritual level, and on the physical level? If
Hmm.
a woman doesn't truly love herself and know who she is
Yeah.
and know why she was created and why she is a vessel to man.
Hmm. So
I
I
know it's a
think
loaded question, bro. Take your
no, no,
time.
no, 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 no. It's a good question, and I think it's. I mean, obviously, it's something I've got a very diverse, set of folks that I get the chance and I'm blessed to work with every day. Um, One of the things, so it's a two-edged sword. There is sort of that whole adage of you can't love yourself until can't love anybody else until you love yourself, and I'm very cautious with telling people that because there are times that in the way they are loved and handled, they are able to start to practice and learn to love themselves. Now, what I mean by that is you 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 must at least be open to receiving someone else's affection, time. You have to at least be willing to show up to it, even if you've never experienced it before. And
Mhm.
one of the things that oftentimes will teach people a really good marker of knowing that you're sort of growing and healing and stretching is that something feels strange or different. I said it's okay for something to feel different than anything else you've seen or heard or felt. That's okay. That actually means you're doing something new. And maybe this something new was a thing you needed to do all along anyway.
Right.
So that's usually a good marker of recognizing that sometimes healthy feels boring. If you used to them Keisha Cole moments and all this, that, and the third, you might, you get your 90s R&B type love. You might wait a minute, I ain't nobody to fuss with. We just talking. I ain't got I can go there's nothing to see in you. We not going through phones, we just being mature. And so in many ways, some people will find themselves actually bored because they realize I used to thrive in chaos. I'm used to thriving in just always being on edge and realizing that I learned that that was love because that's either what I saw or no one ever gave me a proper example of what it means to love and be loved. So I think it's the willingness. People oftentimes will say how. I would say honesty with self and others, open to new things and new ideas and new perspectives, and a willingness to be somewhat uncomfortable and to do something new. If you can consistently show up with that, with yourself and someone else, and you all are committed, working through it, working on it, even if that means somebody's on a therapy journey, even if that means y'all both go, I think you actually can kind of get someone who is uncertain. But the first piece is you got to be willing. So that means you at least got to be enough, have done enough of your work that you're even willing to sit down with someone and connect in a way that might be different from what you're used to experiencing. Um, and because I'm not an all or nothing third person, the other piece of that is no one can, two halves don't actually make a whole. Two holes do. And not 100% whole, because we all on the pot as well. We all working through and on and with something within ourselves. If we're honest, at least we all are. But I think being willing and being honest and being open, um, working on the parts of yourself that you know cause issues in other past scenarios and situations and relationships. I think if you couple all of those pieces together, which I say them like, oh, that's all you gotta do. That's actually a lot. That's two whole people who've healed enough that they're at least open and willing and honest with themselves and someone else. Those most people are lying to themselves and don't even know that they're lying to themselves. They think it's the truth. So I say those things like they're very simplistic, but those three things are actually really big. But I think that um, in either direction, for if you're willing to sort of build something that beautiful with someone, and give someone that permission to feel open and vulnerable and willing to follow and submit or be a part of and create this new life together. I think it takes all of that on both sides. But the other, like, again, there are times in which someone isn't healthy or well enough to do that fully, and I think being honest about that is a part of it too. So
Okay,
that's
I can.
my 2 cents.
Well, I was going to say, to answer your question, no. And the reason why I say no is because, and I hope ladies don't take this the wrong way, but God made you in his image. God made us on his image, and what he's seen us, each individual, what he's seen, how he wanted each individual to look. And we in the era of this BBL era,
Mhm.
and changing your whole body, your butt, your breast, your stomach, whatever, your legs, all kind of stuff going on. And the thing about it is, and it's not just fat women or big bone. It's not ugly women. It's all types of women. I mean, it could be the most beautiful woman you ever seen in your life, and then
Mhm.
a year later she looks like a whole different person because all the stuff she's done to her body.
Mhm.
So to me, the answer to the question is no. A woman is not. Some of these women don't have love for themselves if they're willing to let somebody cut their body up to look a certain way, whether it's to please the world, please
Mhm.
themselves, whatever it is something the disconnect there of self-love. There's a disconnect there when you feel the need to do all that. Even if you tat your whole body up, it's a reason why you're doing all of that, like you're trying to cover up something, you know what I'm saying, your beautiful skin that God gave you. You know,
Mhm.
so it's something there that's not attaching. And it's kind of crazy y'all brought this up because I said this early on a live. And I said the thing about it is women, and we just gonna focus on women, being this was a woman about a question about women. A woman to say, God, I want a man that's 6'1", chocolate bald head, you know what I'm saying, chiseled body, and he might be mean to you. He might talk down to you. He might do all the things that he shouldn't do. But physically, this is what you wanted. But God may send you somebody 5'9", chubby, but he gonna treat you like a queen. He gonna take care of the house. He gonna be there for them kids or whatever the case may be. Be for you emotionally, spiritually, and the whole nine. But you looking at God saying that ain't what I asked for. So my thing is all that comes with, okay, what do you really want out of life? What are you really striving for in relationships and careers
Mhm.
and everything that you're trying to do? What do you really want? And I
Mhm.
and a lot of it is our fault because men, we've dropped the ball, especially black men. You know what I mean? We've dropped the ball as far as the way we treat some of these sisters and how we dog them out and the things we do and leave them with the kids and all that. So some of it is our fault. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying from the standpoint of them focusing on looking at themselves in the mirror, a lot of that comes with that.
Okay, okay. Appreciate both of that dialogue. So now now this is for women and men. A lot of people, toxic love has no balance. it only creates uncontrollable imbalance. And so my phrase for that is get out of your feelings and get into your healing.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about it, Malik.
Yeah, no. Um, you said Icon said a couple things earlier, but that was all of the things that were listed earlier were parts that I mean by honest with self and others, about who you are and who you're not, about what you really need and what you really want, and being honest with yourself and realizing you chose things that were fun to look at or look good on paper, but those things almost broke your head and your heart and your spirit. You know what I mean? So, but no, I think the other thing is I saw this earlier, so I can't take full credit for it. But talked about sort of making sure that you don't want just attention, but you actually want to heal. And what I mean by that is we can talk about things until we're all blue in the face, but then being honest with yourself about what am I willing to do differently to get a different outcome within my own life. If I know that I have a pattern of attracting this type of thing or person, what am I doing differently to sort of notice that, oh, I don't want to entertain these type of traits anymore. I don't want the fast lifestyle anymore, or I'm gonna go slower, or I'm gonna really take the time to get to know someone and their family and their story and their upbringing, whatever it might be, instead of being in this really fast sort of rush to create or have something new. The other thing is just being comfortable within yourself and with yourself. That's what I meant by two halves don't make a whole. Is until your space feels nourishing and good, your time with you, the room you're in, the skin you're in, the mind you're in, the body you're in, until that feels good for you to exist in, how dare you invite someone else into it?
I can dig it. I can dig it.
You know what I
Icon.
mean?
Well, so ask the question one more time. I'm sorry.
I said toxic love has no balance.
Mm-hmm.
It only creates an uncontrollable imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, people should get out of their feelings and get into their healing.
Um, I would yeah. I mean, I would just say like the thing like what Malik's already doing. He's a mental health therapist, and I think that's a lot of what comes with it now in the society we in now. A lot of people need therapy and need to sit down and have and put all those emotions and put the real on the table. Because the thing about it is, a lot of times with your friends and your family, you're gonna be but so real. With yourself, you're gonna be but so real.
Mm-hmm.
But when you sit down and was talking to somebody across from you don't know that's not gonna necessarily be judgmental towards what you got going on, then you may lay out the real and say, this is what I'm really dealing with. And so I need to get all of that out so I can be able to love myself and other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because thing about it is a toxic relationship, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times if you're going from top relationship to relationship and it's always toxic, some of it got to be you. It ain't always the other person. Some of it is you. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you date 5 people and you have 5 toxic relationships, you the common denominator. So at the end of the day, you got to figure out what you're doing wrong to be able to get past all that toxicity that you're putting on other people. And a lot of time relationships, what we do is we get into one relationship and we compare. Oh, he did that or she did that in the last relationship, and you start looking for red flags before you even start. And then the thing about it is a lot of time, especially with women, when they get in, like Malik was saying, when they get into a relationship and it seem to be almost perfect. Oh, I don't gotta go through his phone, and we ain't arguing every day, and he's treating me like this. Then all of a sudden you start looking for stuff. Oh, let me look through the phone to see if it's another woman. Let me see what's going on over here. Let me follow him around for a day. You know what I'm saying? So you look for ways to make it toxic because now you bored because you used to being in that everyday something different relationship. Now
Mm-hmm.
you that boring that we want to call boring at home relationship, and it ain't good enough for you. So once
Right.
again, question, what do you really want?
That's right. That's right, man. That's all I have for today. This has been a wonderful,
Yeah, so
wonderful, phenomenal interview this evening, man. Malik, we appreciate you, man.
I
And
appreciate y'all.
and just gonna throw it out there, Malik. If you don't have your own podcast, you definitely need one, brother.
I appreciate that. I've heard that a few times. I've always I don't know. I actually and also I want to thank you both, Iconic and King Jacob, because I've actually been, as I told a couple people, I've been laying low. I've been kind of hiding out. So it meant a lot that in my quiet phase that someone thought enough of saying, hey, let's hit this guy up and see what he's got going on, what he thinks about things, or how his artistry came to be. So it really means a lot that you sort of tapped me on the shoulder for this one, but that's something I'll think about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody who tapped in with us tonight and who's going to tap in with us when they see this later on. So I appreciate all the support and the love. Malik, you have a blessed night, blessed rest of your week. And if you got any new music, anything that you want us to support, just let us know. And we'll do all our due diligence to help you push whatever project you have coming out.
I appreciate that. I absolutely will. We'll be in touch for sure. And you guys will definitely be hearing more from me. So I appreciate y'all too.
All right.
Yes, have a blessed one.
Got the good vibe, got the 1942 pouring in my cup.